You are listening to the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast, powered by PerformerPreneur. I am your host here, Nicole Louise Geddes, and together we'll be delving into all of the ways that a showbiz side hustle can support you now and long into the future. So sit back, relax, and listen in, and together let's get inspired to take action to create the life, future, and business of your dreams. This episode is sponsored by the Showbiz Side Hustle Handbook, available on Kindle and in paperback over on Amazon. Follow the simple tasks laid out over 3 easy-to-action sections and effectively build a strong business foundation for a successful showbiz side hustle. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast, where this week I am introducing you to a fabulous friend and expert who's going to talk us through everything peak performance. I did allude to this topic last week, so go have a little listen to last week's episode where I talk a little bit about my own struggles. And today, Catherine is going to help us just kind of encapsulate all of the things that we might need to know to be the best version of ourselves. So welcome to the podcast, Catherine. Please do say hello, introduce yourself, and then after that, I'm going to just give a little bit of a backstory as to how we met and why I think you are perfect for my listeners.
I absolutely love that. So my name's Catherine. I am 42. I live in Marbella, Spain. I'm half Armenian, half Irish. So as you said, my background is professional sports. I was a tennis player. I woke up every day just loving life, working hard, being really consistent. I competed at a really high level in the US. And then stopped, quit, put that aside, actually got a little bit burnt out in the process. We'll come back to that next. And then I transitioned to training with women over 40, business, performers, high performance, really tapping into how we are as human beings, looking at not just how we're performing in business or in life, but looking at how our health is, how our relationships are, how our finances is, and how our business are. And what we do is we kind of combine like 4 different energy quadrants: our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health, which sounds like a lot, but I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more.
I love it. Well, and I did say in the last episode that you are my coach in these areas as well. And I have seen huge leaps just in this short space of time working with you. We met over in Dubai. All the listeners probably watched my journey unfold over on Instagram. We met in Dubai. We instantly clicked, and we clicked based on that past professional kind of persona that you've just mentioned. The fact that we give our absolute all to a version of us that we think is going to last an absolute lifetime. But some point along the journey, we just, like you say, burn out, lose the love, evolve, transition. And so our first conversation, we were just both...
We just went deep.
We were like, whoa, we feel it, we understand it. So you as a tennis player, me as a performer. And also my listeners are on this journey as well, be that they're still very much in love with performing, or they can see, a light at the end of the tunnel and they want to transition, or they're already at the other side and they're side hustling and building businesses. So you are the perfect person to introduce to everybody because of that spectrum of information and expertise that you have built outside of your professional tennis career. So first and foremost, with that in mind, that transition and that change that we all navigate at some point, have you got any kind of words of advice for that? And then we'll just kind of pigeon and put that into one poll and we'll move on. But just I think it'd be nice for the listeners to hear your thoughts on that, because you have been there, you have done that, and you have felt those things.
I think it's quite nice and it's quite easy if you're a performer or an athlete or whatever you're doing, that you're quite tunnel visioned. You know what it is and you know what you want, and you don't plan for an after. Your entire identity is wrapped up in who you are as an athlete or who you are as a performer, and you don't see anything else. And then one day it stops, and it's almost like you're left reeling, and you're like, well, now what? Like, who the hell am I? Like, what motivates me? What inspires me? And it's like, it's almost like this depression because you feel completely lost. And I think so easy, we put our worth in as like how we're doing over in this area, be it in business, be it in sports, be it in performance. And that is our means of external validation and our worth. So I would say, looking back, hindsight is, 1, plan for a contingency. What are you going to do after whilst you're coming to an end? And also working on those deep-seated things like, I am worthy as a person, no matter what, regardless of what I'm doing in my sport or in my performance. And I think that's just really a valid point. But biggest lesson is plan for contingency after. How are you going to evolve? what are you working towards? What's your identity after?
I absolutely love that. I got goose pimples because you've just said what I try and say so much better than I say it.
I don't know. No, I don't. But it's like it's so clear. And I think it's like no one talks about this. And I think we hit it off very much like within minutes because you're like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm evolving my business. I'm kind of a little bit tentative about bringing this up. And I'm like, but no one is talking about this. No one is talking about like when you're in the midst of it and then coming out of it. And I love what you're doing. And that's the message or one of the messages that I really feel you need to spread because it'll solve and it'll prevent a lot of heartbreak and just feeling lost and confused.
And I think meeting people like yourselves who are brave enough to speak about that grief, that loss, that shift in identity, that, you know, there's an element of feeling like you've failed at that point as well. Meeting more people that are brave enough to stand up and hold their head above the parapet and say, look, I know this feeling. And if there's a way we can prevent other people from going through this feeling, this loss, then why are we not showing them the way? And I am trying, and tentatively some days and more passionately the other. Hello. This is the other side. Anyone watching on YouTube can see the other side of Kat and Nat. Hi, Nat.
No, look at this. I'm just taking my eldest back to the airport. Right, bye.
So that's just totally lost my train of thought then. If you're on YouTube, you will see the wonderful Nat, who is the other half of Peak Performance, Kat and Nat. So we're just saying that, you know, I tentatively speak about this. I'm passionate about it. I felt it. I've been it. And then some people just come into your life and just remind you that it's so important. And you're one of those people for me. And very eloquently put that it's a contingency. There is an end. You might choose it. Excuse me. It might be injury, personal, who knows? But actually, let's plan for that so we don't feel so lost at sea in that moment as well.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean that like you're not all in what you're doing, but it just means that like, hey, you're covering all these other bases that then eventually you have something else to move towards. And I think like you're not wrong in saying that like it is like a grief. It is like a loss. You don't know who you are. And at least in my case, I was like, well, I almost like didn't know how to do life because you've done something in one area so well for so long. And then it's almost like, well, now what? Who am I? And you're starting off like the rung of like the bottom of the ladder. And it's like, God, it's like, it sounds really bad, but almost like you have a sense of entitlement because you've been so good over here. And it's like, well, why do you have to start over here? Like, why do you have to start from the bottom? And it's just like, it's not, you're just pivoting around. And it's an interesting kind of like, it's an interesting time to navigate, you know?
And that's why people like yourself and myself being there to support people in all areas of their life at different times in their life. I absolutely advocate having a coach. I've got coaches in all different areas of my life. I'm sure you have too. Coaches have coaches, people. So, you know, reach out to somebody who can support you because they are also getting support. And the more people that can support each other, the bigger and the better we can all build and be. And you know,
the thing is, like, everyone has the same struggles. Do you know what I mean? It's like just no one talks about it. And it's like the more that we talk about it, the more we remove the shame about it, the more you remove the stigma of like, oh, you're lost, you don't know what you're doing, or you were great, or you're a has-been, whatever, and you just move on. You liberate yourself to like go on to the next chapter because life is just chapter after chapter after chapter, you know?
It is. And we've both proved, as so many other people around us, so have a little look around, listeners, who is a step ahead of you? What can they show you in terms of how you can navigate this? We've both proved that our skills are transferable and you can put them into any and new projects and new things, and you can be equally as successful in a new spotlight. So talking of that, you did transfer all your skills. You obviously added to them as well, as we all have to, and you became a peak performance coach with your background and knowledge of professional sports training and other areas that you've delved and developed as well. So do you want to talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So what that simply means is like, imagine you are the athlete of your life or you are the athlete of your business. Because athletes, they can't also be one-dimensional. They have to look at all different aspects. They have to look at their sleep. They have to look at their recovery. They have to look at their nutrition. They have to look at their relationships. They have to look at their mindset and their self-talk. And I know you touched on that last week, but it's like such a pivotal aspect. And it's like what we do as peak performance coaches, we bring them all in together and we fine tune, which allows you to not only look your best or perform at your best, but feel your best. Because it's like, well, what's the point of having massive success in business if your relationships are crumbling? Or what's the point of having like financial success if your health is just in the toilet? And we very much like, we'll come at it from a point of view of like nutrition and movement, because that's the door, right? Those are like the low-lying fruit that we can then help with. But then it opens up this Pandora's box of like healing the other parts of you, looking at you as a whole person, and how can we optimize those different areas of your life, your health, your relationships, your business, and your finance to ultimately unlock peak performance, which for me simply means performing at your best, but also being able to turn on and then turn off at will. And that's a skill. And it's a practice, and it's not something someone else is better or worse at. It's just like anything, it's a rep and it's a skill, you know.
And you mentioned there that low-hanging fruit, that nutrition and training kind of aspect of this multi-dimensional peak performance package program that you put together. So let's start there, because I think that's where most people think they need to be, and obviously it is part of the spectrum as well. What's your first and foremost kind of top tips? What do people need to be thinking about in terms of when we're going through change? You know, when we're going through change, as you and I both know, and we've spoken about, wheels fall off the wagon, right? Like we don't, you know, it's different. We do things differently. Life feels different. The first thing to go is probably our, you know, sleep, health, nutrition, training. So how do we bring that back so that we can navigate those obstacles?
We want to keep it really simple. A lot of people come to us, they say, okay, I want to lose weight, I want to feel better in my own skin. And it's like the first port of call. It's not even nutrition, and it's not even movement, it's sleep. Because if our sleep is off, everything's off. Our cravings are going to be out of control. Our hunger is going to be out of control. We're going to feel really crappy about life. Our emotional resilience to life is going to be through the floor. We're going to have no focus. So it's like, that's one of the things we first look at. And that doesn't have to be some elaborate bedtime routine. It can just be like, hey, until what time are you on technology? And we'll just keep it in, we'll bring it in. It's like, great, let's like plug you off 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Cool. What are we looking at nutritionally to give you a better night's sleep? How's your emotional state, mindset during the day, so that you don't get to the end of the day and you're running high in adrenaline? So it's like having this wind down routine first, which can mean just a simple walk, but also looking at like how we regulate ourselves emotionally during the day. And that's all going to be intertwined with nutrition and fitness. So I'll just kind of pivot for a second. And so if we talk about how do I improve my stress, it's like, great, let's look at sleep, but let's also look at nutrition. And I think as women, we do all the things for so many people, and we're just go, go, go. And it's like, oh my God, I forgot to have breakfast, or I just don't have time. And lunch, I just don't have time for that either. I'll just grab something quick and sack it off. And then we get to the evening and we're absolutely starving. We're stressed. We're hangry. We're absolute maniacs to be around. And it's like, we can't stop eating. And it's like, okay, why do I feel like crap? So our first port of call is that. It's like, cool. As like on trend as things like intermittent fasting is, sack that off. Let's look at breakfast. Let's look at lunch. Let's look at dinner. Let's keep things really simple. What does each one of those meals look like? And it's like, cool. Where's the protein? Where's the vegetables? Where are the healthy fats? Just focus on that. And again, consistency over and over and over. And it sounds really simple, but then it's kind of like eliminating the mental and like logistical roadblocks of like, okay, how do I make that actually happen? And that's where we come in. And it's like, it sounds really unsexy, but it's doing that with those basics over and over and over within what works within the framework of your life, right? Because if we tell you to eat a certain food, you know, I hate that food, it's not going to work. So we work very much of like, it's a conversation. It's an A/B thing. We don't tell you what to do. We work with you so that you can make it happen.
Yeah, you've been very good at that with me. Very patient is the word.
Like we're all on our own journey, and like what works for one person won't work for the other, you know? And it's like, we have to work with what works for you. It's like, you have these certain like limitations or demands or preferences or ways of doing things. So it's like, let's meet you where you're at. Because if I tell you what to do and you do it for a week and then fall off, it's like, there's just no point, you know?
So those are great tips and things that stand out to me that that you've taught me and that I am putting into practice, that the listeners could just instantly do, is that sleep routine, is that understanding, that winding down. But also in our industry, not so much now, but in the past, anybody that's 40 plus like me, we'll have created our life in the performing industry around a packet of biscuits. Do you know what I mean? We've got the sugar to get on with and get on stage, but we've got nothing to sustain that. Eat less was kind of the key, and that's just not the message.
Just not, you hit 40, but like you hit 40%. One, it's not sustainable because you got kids. You can't just not eat anything because like it just doesn't work like that, or all the things you have to do. And also then we have perimenopause, right? So it's like, cool, before we could get away with that in our 20s and early 30s, and then suddenly we're gaining weight or not losing weight. Our body shape is changing. We have more belly fat. And it's like, what the hell is going on? Because I'm doing everything I used to do, but it's not working anymore. So it's kind of like flipping that on its head and saying like, cool, what can we do from a nutritional interventional standpoint to actually help combat that? Because our needs are changing, our hormones are different, our estrogen is tanking, our progesterone is all over the place. We've got mood swings, we're hangry, and our body shape's changing. So it's like, it's almost like beyond like, how do I tap into peak performance, and more like, how do I just like survive all of this stuff without like killing everyone else around me? Does that make sense? But it's like, again, the foundations.
It makes complete sense. And there'll be some listeners who, like me, are living that exact nightmare. But there'll be others that are still in their early 20s that are living, this other side of the coin. But again, we go back to that first message about that contingency plan, that kind of building block of learning what you need to know for the future, be that side hustling and creating businesses, be that pivoting, but also be that peak performance. What can you do now that you're going to need in the future? And all of this stuff is relevant throughout all of the ages, more prolific in our perimenopausal era. But actually, if I'd have known half of this back then, this wouldn't be so difficult.
I wouldn't, because it's a lot harder to make changes later on in life, right? If you're in your 20s and early 30s, you're like, if you just start now, it's like, oh my God, like what you save yourself. And it's also this like, we get used to like just like getting by and just like powering through. But like, what if you could tap into unlimited energy? What if you could tap into calm? What if you could tap into that ability to like turn off and go on stage and just be like, perform at this consistently high level every single day without crashing, without going on the roller coaster of energy? It's like, why would you not want that? And some of it's like putting aside those old behaviors and old beliefs and old fears, because what if I gain weight? It's like, okay, cool, but like that's not necessarily going to work for me anymore. And what if it's like almost like you have to try this and see how good you feel, and then you're all in. But it's like, it's night and day. I wish I had done that. My 20s, I was like, whatever, I'll just like live off of caffeine, I'll undereat, I'll just, and it's like, it's not the one, because it makes those changes harder in life.
And bringing it back round to the podcast and the Showbiz Side Hustle ethos, some people will be listening with no intention to leave the performing industry just yet, and other people, as I say, will already be navigating that transition. And so wherever you are on that spectrum of change, if you're wanting to be in performance forever, which, Catherine and I are saying is not necessarily going to be the one. But if you're in that element of moment of your life where you're like, this is forever, the more you put into your nutrition, your sleep, your
the longer you can do it. Yeah, it's exactly, it like befits you. It's like you gain longevity in your industry.
Yeah, 100%. So wherever you are, ladies and gents listening, this information is absolutely relevant to you, because it will keep you in that performing spotlight for longer. It'll be more sustainable. You'll have more energy and consistency in that. Or if you're coming out the other side and you're wanting to explore alternative revenue streams, become entrepreneurs, you're going to need a lot of bloody energy to pursue that one too.
Let me throw a question back at you. Why did you decide to make the changes that you've made? Why did you decide to say, okay, I'm actually going to take charge of my energy, I'm going to take charge of my nutrition? What was it for you?
Because when I am running on full steam, I can absolutely achieve anything. And it's very frustrating for somebody like myself who has got endless ideas, who has got endless creativity, motivation, some days and some weeks. And when I put my mind to it, it happens. I look back on my life. I've written a book. I've moved to New York. I've brought my family to Oman. I've created a business. I've created a second business. I've survived a pandemic. When I need to, I absolutely bloody well can. But there's definitely points in that story where I'm hitting rock bottom in terms of energy, capacity, motivation. And that's really frustrating for me as a high achiever. Like, why am I not doing everything all of the time? I also appreciate that doing everything all of the time is not the way either. So I wanted to just be more consistent, and I'm ticking boxes daily, weekly, and slowly and consistently, rather than already understanding prior to meeting you that I had to put all of my energy into a period of time, because I knew that I would burn out and stop and have like a month and a half, 6, 8, 2 weeks, off. So I'm just trying to keep that consistency, because imagine what it's all going to be like with that.
Exactly. And it's kind of almost like, what are the consequences of not doing that? You're like robbing the world of like all the gifts that you have to offer. And I think like people think that like they need to take drastic measures or they need to go to the gym every single day. And it's like, God, no, less is more. It's like, here's how it's like almost like you don't need more time, you need more energy, right? So how do we give you more energy? And it's like sometimes that means scaling back on the gym. Sometimes it means going to the gym a little bit less, walking a little bit more, which is nice if you've never gone to the gym. So it's like less daunting and threatening. It's like, okay, I can manage 2 hours a week, or I can manage 3 hours a week, and that's enough. That's fine. The same thing with nutrition. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just nail those 3 things. Just nail your protein, 3 meals every day, nail your vegetables. It is that simple. And I think it's almost like it allows you to like, you completely avoid burnout. Like, forget it allows you to anything. It's just like, how do I prevent burnout? By fueling yourself. And it's like, there are times in life that you have to step on the gas and things are absolutely crazy, 100%. Like the whole balance thing, yeah, sure, but not really. Not if you're a high performer, not if you're a high achiever. But the trick is you push on the gas while still fueling yourself, while still taking care of your sleep, while still moving, not killing yourself in the gym. That's what's going to allow you to come across the other side without then just like having, oh my God, I need a holiday to recover. I need 2 weeks to recover, because that's just going to set you back. Do you know what I mean? You may as well not have pushed on the gas in the first place. So it's just kind of like, but you said it quite intelligently. There's been times that I've hit rock bottom, and sometimes it takes like a while to learn what those are. And then when we're ready, it's like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah, amazing. And it literally, it's that you don't need more time, you need more energy. That is the sentence that kind of encapsulates this conversation. You didn't need more time, just need more energy. So that's why I reached out, and that's why I'm trying my hardest to put in these changes. And it's habit stacking. And you've mentioned the gym. And I know that a lot of our listeners will be very regular participants in the gym because of our background, because of our training, because of our performance elements in the industry, but it's very different for me. Like the gym back then was a different version of what I'm doing now. We're lifting. I'm a lifter. So
you get stronger, you get stronger, so you improve your body shape, but 2, also it's going to translate to like what you're doing on stage. You're gonna have more strength and stamina.
So a lot of people would have, I think it's very different nowadays, but a lot of people would have spent a lot of time in the gym, cardio.
The elliptical, the treadmill, 100%.
But now we're very much focusing on lifting, weight training, and toning. Can you talk us through the top tips or the things that people should be considering, why they should make that decision to move over to the weights rather than the cardio?
God, there's so many. One is cardio will absolutely tank you. You'll burn yourself out. You'll burn your adrenals out if you're only doing cardio all the time. 2, weight training. Think about like muscle as the currency of your youth. 1, it boosts your metabolism. It keeps your skin looking toned and defined for longer. 3, it's going to help your bone density, which I'm guessing in your 20s, you're not so worried about that, but you do want to actually look good. So in terms of muscle toning and definition, it's the most effective thing. 3, it's going to give you just so much self-confidence, because there's something about you're doing something that you're previously uncomfortable with. You're facing yourself. It's like, oh, this is painful. This is a little bit painful. And you sit in that and you come through that. The level of self-confidence and self-belief that you get is absolutely unsurmountable. And whether you're performing in your sport or on stage or delivering a presentation in front of people, you can call directly into that self-confidence that has given you. And it's like one of the biggest hacks. And for me, it's like, all the physical benefits are great, but it's that mindset and deep emotional state that you can then tap into later on. And it just makes you feel amazing. You look better, you feel better, you can have more food, and you defy aging. So it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't you do it? And I think we have this fear of, especially in performers, especially even as athletes, well, I don't want to get too big. I'm going to gain all this mass. And it's like, but no, you won't. It's like, you'll only gain too much mass if you overeat. But it's like, hey, let's look at your nutrition, but also don't be afraid to push yourself into the gym. Don't be afraid to do those squats, those deadlifts, the big lifts that work multiple muscle groups rather than just going in and doing a little bit of triceps and biceps, which of course you can do at the end. But focus on the big compound movements, the squats, the deadlifts, the bench press, the rowing, stuff that gets more bang for your buck. And then the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
We love that stuff though. We love that stuff. We just like, but it's like, because also it's about like building yourself up though, right? It's like, how do I build myself up? I'm not breaking myself down.
Well, and we can do hard things. You've been reading that.
We can always do hard things, but like that allows us to do hard things. And it's like, it's hard because we're like, we see it, we're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but it's just that moment of like, yes, I can, Jesus, and do that multiple times in a training session over multiple weeks. It's mental. But it's like we talk about like performance psychology and peak performance, and like one of the things, like this is true in performance psychology and sports psychology. If someone's like having problems with their confidence or their security, they just don't feel sure of themselves, it's like the number one thing that you can do is get stronger physically to get stronger mentally. And it's like that's something we all have 100% control over, and it's like it's a game changer.
So as performers and ex-performers listening, we might have lost some of that strength and ability because of the transition. You know, we've stepped away from the studio, we've stepped away from the gym as much, you know, we're not physically moving and doing as much as we did. So this is speaking to the people that are the other side of the stage door now, and they're going into different directions. Maybe they're parents, maybe they're, you know, entrepreneurs, they're just trying and doing new things, and they're training schedule will be a lot less. Like, let's be honest, that nobody ever trains as much as they do when they're actually training to do what they want to do. Yeah, exactly. So we need to get back to that. We need to, you know, hoping that this podcast will be reaffirming that we know we can do it. We know we've been there. We need to build that habit again.
Yeah, exactly. And like also it's like not comparing to before, because it's like, oh, before I used to do XYZ all these hours, I used to be in quote unquote such good shape, and it's like, yeah, but great, you're not, it doesn't exist anymore. And it's like, the more we stay stuck in the past, the more we stop ourselves from moving forward. So it's just like, cool, where am I at now? Great, what do I want from myself? Why is that important? What is the time commitment that I need? 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, and start slow. Like, you don't want to say, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every like 5-6 days a week. It's like, you're setting yourself up for failure. Start slow. Start with a plan, because you can go and like do different exercises, move a little bit, but if you have an actual plan, you're going to see results far faster, one, and also it's going to be more enjoyable and more motivating, because it's like you save infinite amounts of mental energy because you're following something that you know will take you to your goal.
I love it, because everything you're saying just speaks to me in terms of what I've been saying, in terms of building businesses, in terms of mindset, in terms of now peak performance and physical self. The next episode is about consistency, starting slow, putting a plan together. Like we're
100%, you know,
we're literally talking about all the things that, you know, but it's good because we're reiterating it from different angles, from different perspectives, and it all comes down to the same thing. You know, to be the best version of ourselves, whatever we want to do, we have to put in the work, we have to have a plan, we have to be consistent, and we have to, you know, slow and steady so that we don't overwhelm and burn out.
Exactly. And just like tapping into that, like what I do like about like who we were as past selves, like tapping into that fire again, because sometimes I think we get caught up in life and different things. Your mom, you're a mother, you're this, all these things, and it's like, well, who am I? And it's like that part of us sort of that was quite nice, that just like, I can do anything, I've got this fire inside. You then tap into that and then bring that into your now life.
I always get asked, I say always, I have in the past been asked a lot. People say, don't they, what would you tell your younger self? And I always think, no, it's the other way around. What would my younger self tell me? Like, they would say exactly what you're saying. Like, where's that fire? All that stuff that you just knew you could achieve without any expertise. Like, where's that gone?
It's still there. It's just like we kind of dampen it and we get busy, and like we do like start adulting too much. We've got all these responsibilities, and fair enough, but it's almost like returning to that time and bringing some of that back, because it's always there. It's just like kind of like reawakening it too, you know?
Reawaken it 100%. So we spoke about sleep, nutrition, we've touched on the gym and building muscle. What are the other things that you mentioned at the beginning? There was something quite spiritual there as well. So let's have a little chat about that.
Yeah, spiritual. This is a big one because like people are like, oh, I'm not that woo. And it's like, this isn't necessarily about being so woo. It's just purpose, your purpose and your why. So it's like whenever we do something, it's like, even if you're building a business or why you're having a family or whether in your art, whatever it is, it's like, what's that deep why? Why is that important? And that's the thing. And sometimes it takes a while to get to because that might be like something we call the 7 whys. Okay. I want to lose 10 kilos. Why is that important? Okay, it's going to give me more energy. Why is that important? Because it'll allow me to play with my kids. Why is that important? Because maybe when I was growing up, I didn't have that love and attention from my parents, and I really want to change things. Great. So it's like digging a little bit deeper. One. And it's like when we have that, that will allow us to almost like when we don't feel motivated or when we feel tired or when we feel like we can't go on, or if we're just scared to put ourselves out there because we feel like we're going to be judged or imposter syndrome kicks in, or we want to self-sabotage to protect ourselves. If the why is bigger than us or deeply connected to us, we'll find the strength to overcome. And it's like we very much work with like spirituality in that, okay, we all know what to do, right? And it's like, why can't we do that? And it's like we have those blocks in our lives. So it's kind of like going back and identifying what happened to us, not staying stuck there, but identifying and then almost like moving ourselves through that to the next version of ourselves. So we're not carrying those emotional, almost like bricks in our backpack. But spirituality is just tapping into your deep why, tapping into your purpose. Why are you here? What are your core values? And not the stuff that sounds good. Like we all say, oh, family, friends, all the things, but deeply, deeply tapping into what those are and why they are important to you. And that will allow you to get to your quote unquote next level self. That will allow you to overcome fear. That will allow you to tap into that. You know that you can be the best that you can be.
It's so true. And it can evolve as well. That's probably a really big point. And it has to evolve. It's evolved from being a past performer to now, and it will evolve again to in the future. So keep reviewing that and keep going back to that, listeners. Like, what is the why? And that's 7 whys.
Okay, change, and it's okay to change. Do you know what I mean? And I think that we've talked about this too. It's like we change in life, our relationships change. And sometimes we're like, oh, but I want to stay here because I feel comfortable or I feel bad. And it's like, I think it's very much true that like people will be with us for certain periods of our life to accompany us, to teach us something, or so we can learn something from them. And it's okay to then keep going and continue on in our path. And it's almost like trusting the process and surrendering, which is, I think, the biggest aspect of spirituality, just trusting, just surrender, because it always works out, not the way that you think it will, but it always works out.
Seasons, reasons, lifetime. I come back to when it's about people and experiences and moments and chapters. There'll be, you know, some things will stay with us and people will stay with us forever. Some it's a lesson, like you're saying, a season, a reason. And it's that giving into that understanding that we haven't got as much control over everything as we.
No, but that's the thing. It's like we don't have control over hardly anything. Like we have control over ourselves. And that's it. And it's like a large part of, I think, growth or anything is just like really becoming okay with living in uncertainty. And the stronger our relationship with uncertainty is, the calmer we are, the more things flow. But that's hard because we want a certain outcome. So it's like letting go of that outcome and just trusting the process.
We would have all maybe felt that in different kind of levels across the years, and it's just understanding and tapping in and working with, like you're saying, working with people like Catherine, but also working on your own with yourself. Like, what are those things? What's evolving? What's changing? Who, you know, how are we feeling? What bits can we take control of that are us and not everybody else? And I often think back to perspective as well. As you change age, as you change roles in relationships, as your life changes, your perspective changes. And I often revisit, again, recently with your guidance, revisit situations and things that have caused, you know, a certain thought process that with a different perspective, a different understanding, just aren't necessarily as big or small as you felt at the time. So always revisit those things as well.
Just coming to peace with them too, you know, just mending those wounds and be like, okay, this is what I thought at the time. Was it true? Yes or no? It doesn't necessarily matter. Have I moved past that? Have I moved on? Have I released that? It's like, yeah. 100%.
So there's so much that we are gifting the listeners now, probably too much for anyone to kind of get their heads around in such a short space of time. But I think that the point and the reason I wanted to bring you on is because you understand that transition, you understand that change, and you have developed and created this whole new version and lifestyle of yourself, and you are a peak performer then, and you are a peak performer now. You can take those elements and use them and build the next big dream upon, and you're obviously able to help and support and gift that expertise to others as well. I'm sure there'll be 100 things that are whizzing through performers' minds, entrepreneurs' minds, side hustlers' minds, my listeners' minds right now, and please do reach out to Catherine if you have any questions. Do you want to tell everyone how they can find you? And then we'll go back to some last tips and
100%. So our website is under construction, but it will be www.hustleandhealth.com. I'll have you link it in your show notes. Hustle and Health as an Instagram handle, and I am at the Elite Performance Coach on Instagram.
So if you were to leave your little podcast legacy with my listeners, what is the 1, 2, 3 things that you think is the absolute foundation, the starting point? We've said the sleep, we've actually covered it. So just sleep, nutrition, and getting back into the gym and lifting. Spiritual as well, 4 things. What would you like somebody to remember this conversation for and inspire them with? What do you want them to go ahead and do?
It's okay not to know the next step. It's okay not to know the next step. Focus on making mistakes. Everything serves a purpose. It's like sometimes it's really important to focus on and know what you don't want to do before knowing what you do want to do, and that's okay. And it's the more you try things, the more you take action, the more it all becomes clear, and no one has it all figured out. Absolutely no one has it all figured out, and that's okay.
But you make it look so easy. You make it look like you're figured out.
But it's a game, though. Life is a game. It's like the less seriously you take yourself and life, the more you can relax into it and have fun. It's just when we force things, right? So it's almost just like, just do an experiment for 3 months. I'm just going to surrender and let go and see what happens. I'm not going to sit at home on my couch and just like imagine like things are going to come to me, but I'm just going to surrender. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to be playful about life. And that playfulness allows us to tap into flow and to see things we wouldn't ordinarily have seen. But it's like, we can't do that. We're like, what's the next step? What's the next step? We're just trying to force all the things. And it's like, that's for me, that's the biggest lesson. Just let go, surrender, trust. Do an experiment while still focusing on your nutrition and your movement.
Well, it's a great kind of way to end, because I think if anyone listening is going through that transition that you and I have been through, that the listeners are going through possibly or will come to eventually, that leaving the spotlight, that change of identity, that shift, that not knowing the next step is a really difficult and uneasy place to be.
Hard. Yeah, it's hard, but then there's no shame about it. There's no shame saying, I don't know what I'm doing next. Cool. Great. So let's play and let's explore. That's okay. That's what we're here for. Because that may change. That may change every decade. That may change every 5 years. And it's okay to constantly reinvent yourself, because identity is fluid.
Identity is fluid. And if you listen to our last podcast with my member Rainbow Glow, she spoke about that as well. So there's such beautiful synergy, just reiterating those messages time and time again. Be playful. Don't put too much pressure on yourself at that transitional moment, that kind of dark space where you don't know what it looks like. But also going back to the beginning of the podcast where we did say, there are people that can help you. There are pathways, there are programs, there is support. And if you, whilst you are absolutely living the dream, can create a contingency, then you are going to not be so fearful in that moment of change as well, and you'll have more room to play because you'll have already compensated for that time. So it's all about strategy to a degree. It's about having those pieces of the puzzle, and whether they fit together perfectly at any given point, it doesn't matter, but it's knowing what those pieces are. It's making sure that you've got them to hand when you need them, and starting very slowly to place them in the right place, in the right order, with the right support, with the right people, with the right belief and the mindset.
Exactly. And finding the people that have done it. Don't make the mistakes yourself. Cut yourself like a lot of slack. Make things easy. Find someone who's done it. Find someone who's in your industry. Find someone who can guide you to the next step. And that's just going to be life-changing.
And that brings us back to coaches have coaches. You have done it.
We have loads of coaches. You got coaches. Yeah.
Found you, working with you, you're a step ahead of me. And the same, listeners, if you need Catherine support or my support, depending on what journey you're on, please reach out to people. We are all here, a step ahead of you, wanting to bring you with us on this fantastic journey of change. So yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, we could talk for ages. We could go off on 100 different tangents. Anything that I've missed that you would like to gift to my listeners?
Trust yourself and trust the path. That's all. It's kind of just a reiteration of what we said. Just trust. Find a mentor. Trust. It's okay not to know.
So we're going to go off, everybody. Take a breath, grab a cup of tea, write down that why, have a little look for somebody ahead of you. You know, go back to that strategy of sleep, nutrition, gym, spiritual. They are the elements of your peak performance self. Gifted to us today by Catherine of Hustle and Health. I'll put all of the details in the show notes. Please go and find her. She's an absolute beaut of a human, and she has got some and all of the experience that we've been through, and she's happy to talk that through as well. She certainly helped me just chip away at a few last fears as well recently. We're going big or we're going home. That's the message.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Big love. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining me here on the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast. So until next time, please do take a little bit of action, that very first step, and make sure that you are doing something for you and your Showbiz Side Hustle this week to move you forward and get you heading quickly and swiftly and strategically towards success.